So the Men I Meet project, that's what it's called, um, is more so, I guess, my exploration specifically into different themes or issues that men of color face.
Yeah.
Um, and you do know that just from my past, um, and obviously dating mainly men of color, like I've gone through some shitty things.
Yeah.
And so, but at the same time, there's still like a huge love for you guys, and I still desire to like end up with a family, building a family with
Yeah.
my people. And so really just wanted to create this platform or build a platform where men could start sharing their experiences.
Yeah.
I know that it won't get to be as deep as I'd like it to be, and hopefully it'll go, like the conversations will be followed up, but even if it just gives a taste into just some insight into what you guys feel and
Yeah.
experience. So I invited you to speak about growing up in a mainly single parent household.
Okay.
However, your home didn't start as just a single parent household. Like you did have a nuclear family, right?
Well, for kind of. So it was a situation where um my family life was like I had my dad there, my mom there, but they were very much so immigrants from Jamaica, where they have an idea of kind of how Canada works, but then they get thrust into kind of like life here, and then it's a lot of work and a lot of time that you got to put into it. So my dad was around for the first, I want to say, 7 years of my life, but he wasn't always around. Like I have memories of him, um, but I don't have a lot of them. My mom were very much so was like the 9 to 5 type of person.
Yeah.
So I would see my mom like morning times before I go to school and after when she gets home. But I think her job was draining, so a lot of it she was disconnected for like after that time.
Mm.
And then there was a situation where like the relationship between my mom and my dad used to start to break down. So there was less and less of the dad part of it as it got closer to the 8 year mark.
Distance a bit.
Yeah, yeah. And he devoted his energy to other things
Yeah.
that were kind of not really with us. So it was a situation where I think for the first 8 years of life, like I genuinely don't have that many memories with
Yeah.
him.
Okay, so back to mom.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
yeah.
um, so that kind of dynamic there, um, there was a lot of stress on that relationship. I would say near the last around, Kevin. Kevin is my brother, and he's about 4 years apart from me, so he's my younger brother by 4 years. I would say things started to break down around after the four, around Kevin was 1 or 2. So Kevin doesn't really have any memories of my dad. But it's a situation where from like you're still pretty young when you're 5, 6 ish, so you don't obviously you're not gonna have all of your memories.
Yeah.
But I don't really have many with my dad, and it's a situation where my mom, because of the fact that the relationship broke down and she was put in a situation where she now has 2 kids. We're living in Rexdale. She's paying for an apartment, um, and the finances aren't really like coming in. There's a lot of stress on her part, so she was for the most part. I remember a lot of times when like there was no like food, stuff like that, or we knew we had to wait 3, 4, 5 days before mom gets paid before we can start getting food.
Yeah.
And you kind of as a kid you adapt to these things, right? You just find the best of situations.
Right.
Um, there's some good and some bad, obviously, and there was a situation where there was a definite impact on my upbringing based on it.
Right.
Um,
Do
so
you
so that's
feel that there was your experience is a lot different from your younger brother Kevin's?
100%. So Kevin's upbringing was my upbringing was I'm the oldest. It's my mom. I'm the oldest, and there's not really a male figure there. And I
Right.
have a younger brother. So I feel like for the most part, I started to try to look out for Kevin, and I started to try and mold him into like a man, almost kind of like try to be a fatherish to him. Like I'm not his dad, but I try to like at least kind of give him some tools that
Yeah.
I felt like you would need to be as a man. And that's kind of like the effect. Kevin's relationship was more so, especially since he's the younger one. Like he had a better connection with, I want to say, my mom than me. And it was also a situation where my dad later on in life kind of had more of a connection with him as well. But I think that's more based on his personality. I always say I think Kevin's like a better version of me than me.
Okay.
And yeah, because he took some of the better parts, minus some of the trauma.
Mm.
Yeah.
What do you think? Actually, that was straight. That was straight up. What do you, what, like when you're saying trauma, like what would you, how does that look for you?
For me, um, it's there's different layers to it, right? So there's my dynamic with um authority figures that
Mm-hmm.
was kind of weirdly affected.
Mm.
I'm usually very off put by authority. I'm
Yeah.
very off put by authority figures because I had to kind of rely on myself for a lot of stuff. I even find it in like jobs I work in, different scenarios I'm in, where
Yeah.
I don't like to give people control of my life, because my understanding of life is that people can change their mind and abandon you. Like love doesn't have um you know how people describe love when you're growing up? They make it seem like it's this magical force that
Yeah.
holds
They
people
don't
together.
talk about the work.
They don't talk about the work. And number one, my understanding of love is that it's not really like that, where it's this force, this magical force that kind of keeps people together. To me, my understanding is love is like a switch. People can turn it off without you knowing it, and then their actions will switch up following that, right? So you can't really put yourself, my understanding growing up was that I can't really put myself into a position where I have people having control over me, because they could change what they decide and therefore my future at any time, right?
Right.
There's
Right.
that. I would say uh, I don't think it affected my relationship with women so much, because I had my mom there. So I had that to kind of learn about women. I would say my interaction with men are is where it kind of affected me the most.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I don't build great connections with men. I don't really befriend men too much. And at the same time, I kind of like I'm a lone wolfish type of person. Like I don't like to follow groups. I don't like to follow like I'm not the type of dude that will have like 4 or 5 brethren and then I'm just down for whatever they do and I'm following any type of leader in that group, just because it's a situation where like I didn't really have I had to be my father figure. I had to
Right.
find my father figure from TV shows like Fresh Prince or Family Matters and stuff like that. Like I had to build my structure of what I wanted to be a man from that, because I
Mhm.
didn't really have that design to
Right.
look up to, right? So those I think those are the biggest impacts to my understanding interaction with people. Um, Obviously, it gave me a kind of. Sorry, you want to jump in? What's up?
Um, do you, was there, do you feel like you're holding a resentment towards men? And then
Mm,
turn that then leads into this resentment towards authority figures?
I don't think there's a resentment. Like I don't have hatred for men. I just find that. Um, okay, so my rational, I think my logic is that I, as a man, would never do what my dad did to my family, right?
Right.
Like, there's no circumstance where I wouldn't be in my child's life, none whatsoever, aside from like death. You see
Mm.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there isn't anything that would prevent that. The fact that a promise like that, or at least that ideology didn't exist in my dad for the most part, kind of led me to not really trust what men consider themselves as men. And then
Mm.
you start paying attention to like how men move, how they act, how they interact with people. And I find, to be real with you, a lot of guys don't have the same moral fabric that they claim to have, number one, and especially that previous generations in movies showed men to have, where they're like, oh, I am this leader, I am this, I'll die for what I love, that type of stuff. A lot of guys don't have that.
Right.
I don't put myself in a position to ever have to rely on their love. You see what I'm saying? Or rely on that bond, or rely on that interaction, or rely on any of that. It's just, I kind of treat them as a little bit fake until proven real.
Right. Right.
And a lot of guys like to big up their chest on things that they're not really
They're
even.
not really doing.
Yeah, when you put their feet to the fire, they're not ever gonna survive by that. Like I've seen enough examples of even my brethren who are caught up in situations, and they're caught up in situations because their boy claimed to be something, and then when their feet's to the fire, everything falls apart. You know
Right.
what I mean? And
Right.
then I just kind of watch that. I'm like, you know what? I prefer relationships with women, because at least then the dynamic's different. At least then it's a situation where I don't have to put too much on her plate. We can just share thoughts and understandings and talk through things. It can be a mental connection versus, okay, we're a clan, we're a crew, let's do XYZ. Because, yeah, we
Do you,
can link.
do you think your time spent with your, mainly with your mom and your brother and having to step into this leadership role, um, and you said that you used television to sort of shape your understanding of what a man looks like. So for you, do you think that that's mainly protector and provider, or like what does a man look like to you?
A man to me isn't really, I don't really think I think it's more of a doer than a protector and a provider,
Okay.
right? It's just somebody that kind of gets shit done. So like if you have a family and you have a goal for that family, my understanding of relationships and being in relationships now, with some amazing human beings, some amazing women, it's a situation where I started to learn how the dynamic works. That like as a man, you're the doer, but together as a team, you create the plan. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? And
Right.
then that's like an echo chamber. You create kind of the direction, and as a man, you're supposed to step up and do. It can come in the form of earning. It can come in the form of fixing things. It can come in the form of whatever needs to kind of be done that
Right.
your strengths lie, right? I think our old understanding of how relationships should work is flawed. Like it's just the old way is, oh, the man goes out and works. Oh, the man comes home, brings home the bacon. Oh, the man does this, Y, X, Y, Z. And then the woman stays home and kind of nurtures the family. But reality, it's not fair and it's not even possible in this generation for you to ever like create any real success or wealth or happiness when one person isn't using their strengths, right?
Right.
And then for you to define a woman's strengths as the man and then be walking out into the world like, yeah, my girl is XYZ. No, let her tell you what her strengths are. And
Mhm.
then you guys form a better kind of unit based on whose strengths lie where and
Right.
then whose weaknesses need to be covered by whose strengths, right?
Right.
Yeah. I'm not even sure if I answered that question. I kind of just rambled on.
It's okay. I like the answer. I like
Yeah.
where the conversation is going.
Mm.
Um, because and then just to touch back to your brother for a second, you said that you feel like he has your better qualities.
100%.
So is it just do you think that he's learned by example, or do you think he's naturally um well, what are your better qualities?
I think it might be a mix of both. So one thing that we always kind of have, and I hope I pass on to my kids, is we're extremely intelligent human beings, and then we also have this kind of like fire,
Yeah, you
where
guys are like both of you are like gifted. Like I feel like you low key, yeah, you both are
yeah,
actually considered
yeah,
gifted.
yeah, we're actually really smart. When I was a kid, there and I this is part of me growing up and not having a dad and seeking kind of affirmation from groups. Like I didn't start off at this point as a kid like, oh, I don't need nobody, I'm me myself. I think for the first maybe 10 years, 15 years of my life, I was trying to find love in a group. I was trying to find love in a group. I was trying to, have a family. So I'd build that with like my brethren or whatever the case is, right? So I've been kind of tested and had the pathway to be accepted into like gifted programs and stuff like that. It's a situation where as a kid, I think it was like 6 or 7, I understood that would require me leaving my area and
Mm,
not being able to interact with the people that I cared about.
yeah.
So it was a situation where I kind of forego that to stay in Rexdale.
You wanted to stay within the community.
I wanted to stay with my people, right?
Yeah.
Because to me that was where the love lied. Um, and then Kevin also was accepted to like a gifted school. Like we're both really intelligent, and that's one of the things he has. And he also backs that up with the actual formal education.
Yeah.
And he, I don't know, I find that he's just a better version of me. Like we're both equal, we're both smart. I find that he's smarter. We're both kind of like I said, the fire. Like we want to get, if we're going to do something, we're going to do something.
Yeah.
And there's like, if we see something going wrong, like there's a little bit of anger there. It's kind of like a Morris anger that if we
Okay.
don't like where the situation is going, then something has to get done. Like you can't only push someone so far. And it's a situation where um, he has that, but he also has like a few other qualities that I find are like better than myself. Like he's willing to put a certain amount of effort into certain things like gaining facts. He's very history oriented. He's very like I guess meticulous with certain things. He's very experimental. He's very courageous in doing certain things. And then he also doesn't have the pressures that I had growing up that kind of shaped the way I view the world.
You
Where it's
created
like,
space for him to be able to explore those things, I think, while you took on
and
the pressure.
exactly, which is what I wanted to do, right? As growing up, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be the shield and let him be the best version of himself. Like as a kid, I always kind of like, you will be the better version of me. I know this from the start, so I'll sacrifice whatever
Oh,
for
yeah,
you to have that, right?
yeah.
Because like he's the one. The reason why I did that was like a give and take. So there are also some other details in my life that were very hard on me as a kid. And it's a situation where I wanted to A, shield him from that, and B, I also kind of wanted him. I wanted to shield him from that, and I also wanted him to. I also kind of leveraged him as like a sounding board for me to get the pain off my chest instead
Mm,
of bottling it up. So it was a give and take. Like I'd shield him from it, but at the same time, he would make me laugh. Like the big thing is humor always kind of like made me. It was my pathway to happiness.
yeah,
So like humor was always my pathway to happiness. That's where I found happiness. So
right.
he would make me laugh, and I would kind of shield him from the stuff that I didn't feel like he should have to deal with, or really should have to deal with. But
Did
that's
this, did you have moments of like feeling alone, and when was that, and what did that feel like?
um for a long time, like I pretty much have always felt like I was alone. Um, Mostly because like I'm Jamaican. I come from a Jamaican heritage. You can't really tell your parents kind of don't really always, especially certain situations. Maybe not every parent, but my Jamaican parents, you can't really tell them things and expect them to side with you, right?
I don't understand nothing.
They don't understand nothing. Like teachers do something like I remember the situation where I got punished for something that I was genuinely in the right for, right? But because it was me going against my teacher, an authority figure, my parents took it out on me.
Yeah,
But at the same time, it's a situation where, like, when they talked to the person after they met them at the parent teacher meeting, they realized I was right, right? They talked to a few other people and they realized I was right. But like, you can't come to them for that stuff. So there's a lot of stuff. And then as I got older, started doing some reckless shit. This situation where you can't tell your parents that.
yeah,
So I felt like I always kind of held things in and kept it to myself, and then try to find ways to process it. And my processing pathway was always logic and reason. Like I would sit there and try and, instead of me feeling things, I would sit there and try and pick it apart and find a solution.
right.
So
Um, Growing up with just your mom, what age, well, first of all, what was the age that you first started working and helping to provide in the house?
I got actually lied on my application. I didn't lie, but my birthday lied in a weird place, and I think I was 15. So 15 is when I really started working. I kind of lied on my application and started working at Wonderland
Yeah,
to bump my age up by a couple months.
yeah,
And I used to bust my ass there. I mean, like I had a brethren that worked there too, so we would both switch each other's locations at the end of our shift. So I was working at like 15. I was working like 80-hour weeks.
yeah,
Like I was doing like 10 hours a day, maybe like 12, 13 hours a day, just grinding, grinding, grinding. And then I would just kind of help my mom out where I could, like
yeah,
give her some of my check and stuff like that. Um, and then after that, I just kind of worked at like factory jobs in high school and shit like that. I've been working ever since. Like,
yeah.
say I started like 15ish, not 14, 15ish.
Do you think that you would have understood, and do you think it's possible to have learned the discipline that you have if your dad had stayed around?
I think, I think, I think so. I think discipline isn't really like, I think it's something you can learn, but I think it's like there are a lot of attributes in human beings that are like kind of like built into your soul. So my discipline doesn't come from me waking up early every day or having like a sports thing that I did as a kid, and then I'm used to mornings. No, my discipline comes from like the hunger to fix a situation, and then
Oh,
that hunger to fix a situation comes from, I want to say, my soul. Like I've always been trying to, if there's a problem, I try to find a way to fix it. If I needed something and my mom couldn't afford it, I would build it. You know what I mean? It was that type of situation. So I feel like it's part of the soul. But if my dad was there, I think I would have been afforded something different. Like I probably To be honest with you, I think I may even be further in life, just because instead of me trying to do everything myself, I would have the tools to be able to maybe lead a team, or maybe it wouldn't take me like 10, 15 years to learn how to be a part of a team or work with a team. Even now, if I do create a team, which I'm trying to do in the next, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, I don't know how I'm going to lead it. I think there's going to be a situation where I'm going to have to just be like a leader, but distant, and then just follow kind of like a set of rules. Like I would have to be kind of more stricter than interactional, which is what.
John Maxwell. I'm going to send you some John Maxwell
What's
books.
John Maxwell?
John Maxwell is an amazing leadership coach.
Mm,
21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership or the
mm,
360 Leader are good starting points, just to learn how to step into that. And mindset shifting is a huge thing,
yeah.
especially if you're going to lead a team. I think that a lot of people confuse managing with leadership.
Yes.
I think even just thinking about our topic, even our parents confuse management with
Oh,
leadership.
leadership. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. I agreed.
I don't know, and I wonder if that's just an individual thing or a cultural thing.
I've been thinking about it. I think it's a cultural thing, to be honest with you. Like, I love Jamaican culture, but as with all cultures, there's negatives, and I think part of the negative is the whole leadership and the way that it's like a weird respect for authority that's almost like parental, and I
Well,
think it comes from slave days.
definitely, I agree. It comes from slave days. It comes from Christianity. I think
That
the
too.
understanding of what honor thy father and thy mother means,
That too.
um,
It's a lot
is
of blind faith.
yeah, it's a lot of blind faith. And because I'm older, I know what's right.
Hmm.
And you got to listen to what I'm saying. Now, mind you, and I think this is the difference between the management versus the leading is a lot of things. Even now, I think back, and my mom especially has conveyed, and I was like, when I was younger, she'd say certain things and I didn't want to listen. And now I think about it, I'm like, okay, she was right.
Yeah.
But I think that you have to allow some space for the person to go through the process to
Hmm.
learn. But if you're just growing up in this home where the person's just saying you have to do X or Y,
Hmm.
and there's no explanation, it's just make sure say you do it this way,
Hmm.
and you're like, okay, but why? Because Metellus.
Exactly.
And there's no, you don't understand. So then you
Exactly.
automatically want to do the opposite.
Yep. And if you have a defiant bone in your body, it's
Yeah.
gonna be you're gonna push against that under all, and it breaks it. Then it introduces a breakdown of like the actual relationship between you and your parent, right? Just because you don't want to follow the XYZ rule. I think a greater understanding, especially for cultures that are like Jamaican culture, where it's very hard headed and the older is right, is understanding that right and wrong are subjective. Right and wrong come down to situation, and
Right.
right and wrong also come down to generation. Like right for them, like for instance, how they would the big thing was for people to like go to school, get a job, do XYZ in this industry, become a doctor, lawyer, da 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 da. If they had known that technology would become what technology was now, which they had no way of knowing, that may not be the pathway that would have been ideal for that person. And
Yeah.
I feel like they don't know what could be, and they're not getting feedback from the kids to learn. Okay, this is how the world's changing.
Yeah.
So it's like it would work. It would work if we took a time machine to your time, but it's not going to work for our generation, right? So like jumping jobs now is intelligent. For you to go from build a resume of job to job to job is actually a
They
good
don't
thing to do.
understand that. They were
They don't
like, stay
understand
in
it.
one place forever and just grab your pension and go. And
Exactly.
understand like I often have this debate, not really a debate. My mom's family is my mom is the oldest of 13 siblings,
Yeah, yeah,
and my dad is also 13 siblings, which is wild, but he's like the
yeah.
ninth kid, and he's older than my mom, so his generation is so much older. My mom's generation is younger, so
Hmm.
she has a lot of, like, in my mom's side of family, there's a lot of entrepreneurs, which
Hmm.
is great. But again, like you said, migrating to North America, and where their hustle and means of survival was just get into a job, be a blue collar worker, make money. And then again, the best jobs were the ones that gave you pension, and buy a house. Make sure you buy a house because a house is your investment.
Yeah.
That's just sort of the same mindset. So they want us, and it's funny when you said doctor, lawyer, I was like, is that the schematic for everything? Like they're
It's like
always
schematic.
go to school, be a doctor or a lawyer. You don't even have the skills to be a doctor. Like you don't have
And
the, I don't even fuck with math, but be a
yeah.
doctor.
And you know what's the crazy part? I'm gonna drop a bomb on you and whoever's listening right now. Nowadays, with the pathway of the things, the pathway of technology in the future, being a doctor or lawyer is gonna be one of the most insecure jobs you could possibly have.
Right.
Because as AI develops, one of the set of things that are gonna be the number one things that are replaced by AI are things that have a rigid structure. So
Right.
like law has a rigid structure. For you to be a good lawyer, all you need to do is have a better understanding of laws and how they change.
Right.
Nothing's better than that, than feeding an AI algorithm that information for a number of repetitions until they get so good.
AI.
Yeah, no, I'm serious because I'm serious. Like if everyone that's trained to be a lawyer, yeah, you'll have your job, but like you're not gonna beat AI in court in
Yeah.
in 30 years. You see what I'm saying? So like them telling us to do this now is actually screwing us for the future.
Yeah.
Versus like maybe a doctor, always need doctors, but like they won't give you room to build a business or build a stream or build an avenue. And then you see all these millionaires and billionaires that just
Well, that's the conversation I have. My mom's very much like, Tasha, you need to settle at this job. And I said, Mom, you think my boss settled at a job?
yeah,
Oh, and I say to her, I'm like, I'm not trying to just stay on a 60, 70, or even like, to be honest, like, I've got people around who have their 100K salary and I'm great. I think that's great. And if you're happy with that, that's cool. But my thought process is more about the ability to have my flexibility and freedom and create
100%,
than it is about the dollar. Yes, I want the dollar,
100%.
but I also want the dollar and I want to be happy.
You
Like,
just want, you don't even want the dollar. You just want the security part of it. Like if the dollar, if someone said to you, okay, you can have your time. We're not gonna pay you any money, but your food and your place to stay will be taken care of, and you have a little bit of money for you to spend on the weekends.
or
You'd run. Everybody would run for that.
but no, everybody would. Everybody
Yeah.
would.
And then you have your time that you can do whatever you want with, create whatever you want with. Like if you had a blank check, it'd be like you have a year, create something,
Yeah.
right? Or create your job for yourself. If my room and board was taken care of, everyone would leave their job today to do it.
It's true. It's true. If you have the mindset anyways, and that's where
Yeah,
the management versus coach leading comes in.
agreed.
Um, I wanted to ask you about survival
Mm.
and what does having to be, well, first of all, do you feel like you grew up in in survival mode?
24/7. Like I've always been in survival mode. It's always been a situation where there's a lot of stress on my mom's life.
Yeah.
For as long as I can remember, there's a ton of stress on my mom's life, and then I wanted to alleviate that stress as much as I could. So it was always survival mode for me. It was always like, okay, how do I prevent this from happening? How do I stop this from happening? How do I do this? How do I get this? How do I? Every day is like that, right? And then it grew. I grew up to the point where it's almost like a drug. Like I'm addicted to it. To be honest with you, I thrive in high stress situations, and I'm
Okay.
attracted to them.
About to ask you, like, how do you feel like you're still in that mode, or have
Hundred
you
percent, hundred
and
percent.
you're there?
100%. I'm still in survival mode. I'm still kind of like and that's not all. It's, I would say it's 50% growing up and 50% Rexdale. So Rexdale is a very survival mentality area where like everything's brown bricks, everything's gray, everything and everyone looks like they're kind of struggling to get by. It's an environment where it's an environment like a lot of hoods where you feel like there may not be a means out. This is where I'm gonna die,
You know what's
and they
crazy?
survive to get out.
I would jokingly say, having dated a 1-2 Rexdale man, I would jokingly say like there's a mindset, like like I'd talk to a girlfriend and I'd be like, man, like if I had a girlfriend who was dating somebody from Rexdale too, I'd be like, they'd say something, I'd be like, yo, so and so is the same way, like it's a Rexdale mindset.
It's a very
But
much Rexdale
I
mindset.
really do think that, describe what the Rexdale mindset is.
The Rexdale mindset is um we always equate it to like a New York mindset. It's like a Brooklyn mindset. It's just like a hustle to get out mindset. It's a live by a certain code mindset. It's a very much so like rules for a lot of hoods kind of live there. So like, don't snitch. And then there's also get money for a lot of people, maybe not so much me, is like get money by whatever means, right? And then kind of your brotherhood or your mandem. Like just you have to kind of like don't defy those, and then find your come up, find your hustle, find how you can make money. And then making money is a big thing there. Like make
Do you
like
also think that the idea of wealth is misconstrued? Something, and this is my
100%.
like I think yeah, y'all have this mindset of hustle and make money, but it's to achieve material things at all, like at all times, like the best car, best clothes, whatever. It's I don't
Yeah.
know if like I don't see it in you, to be honest, but I have seen, like, I feel like the idea of what is abundant
Hmm.
is confused.
Yeah. Then, and most people, I would say, from like places I work still, they learn it later in life,
Yeah.
that the way they understand money and how money works, and especially like access to money, is very flawed, and it's detrimental to them, because like we'll grind and we'll do the dirtiest things for like a stack, or like for like a rack, or like 1,000 or 1,500, or like whatever the case is. We'll grind and do dirty shit for that, or we'll sell drugs and do that for that. But at the same time, that money, and we're not looking at the money and the time and the effort we're putting in to make the money. A lot of times it's not even like you're really coming up. It's like you're working a minimum wage job.
Yeah.
Top of that, you're not doing nothing with the money to ever break the cycle or to level up. And then we don't have the conversation about leveling up. We don't have a conversation about credit and leveraging debt. And it's one thing that rich people do that I was afforded. The reason why I see it like this is I was afforded, worked a job where I was doing deliveries in a lot of rich neighborhoods. And I
Yeah.
would like talk to like the owners every now and then aside. And I started to realize how a lot of these guys got rich. And it's just, they invested in themselves. And then on top of that, they went through a kind of pattern where they compounded their money, right? A lot of them came from like rich upbringings, but and then they're well educated, so they had decent to good jobs. But a
Hmm.
lot of the times they're just kind of they're making the money backflip. Whereas we don't make the money backflip. We kind of just sacrifice till we get it, and then when we get it, it's a sigh of relief, so we spend it.
Right.
Or we're starving, so we spend it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's a big Rexdale thing. Not just starving, and they just kind of like they try to figure out how to feed themselves, and by the time they get fed, like they're like the hungry kid at the buffet. They eat everything, and then they have to go back to the struggle situation again, right?
Right. So how would you so it's interesting because I was, to be honest, I was thinking, okay, you recognize that you've been in survival mode, and that maybe survival mode doesn't serve you as you hit a certain point in life.
Mm.
But you're saying that you thrive in this space.
I don't think survival mode is bad. I think you gotta like. I don't think, can be real with you. I don't think anything is just bad or good. I think everything has its bad and it's good. Right? Yin and yang type of situation. I think survival mode is bad on you, but good for your future. I
Yeah.
feel like survival mode is, it's a high stress level, and it'll probably have some type of effect on my life. But at
Yeah.
the same time, it lets me pay attention better. It makes me learn more. Makes me accept more information. It makes me pivot faster. It makes me kind of always looking for a way to climb up. And I like that. Like, that's why I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm built for stress, and I kind of like it just because it makes me see things from different angles at all times, and consider everything from 4, 5, 6 angles before I make a move. And then the more you do that is the faster you are at it. So like I'll be able to like look at a situation, bend it around, look at it, and then choose the pathway and then try it, and then pivot along the way type of thing.
But how does that affect your relationships, especially relationships with women, if you're in survival mode? Like, how do you stay present?
I think it's hard. I think it's, and I cannot really speak for the women in my life or my past. I think it's probably hard for them, just
Yeah.
because they care about me and they see me and what I'm dealing with and going through. And they obviously don't want me to live like that, right? They don't want me to be under those situations. But I would say the biggest effect is that um, I'm not waiting for anyone. I'm not really 100% collaboration mode. A lot of times I gotta like stop, slow down, stop everything, and then have the conversation before it becomes like a team effort. It's just like I'm sprinting, and they're like, "Yo, where are you going? Why
Hmm.
are you going there? Like, talk to me," type of thing. And it leads to a little bit of disconnect, because in survival mode, you're not always trusting, right? You're kind of just looking to survive. You're not always the most open, trusting, warm individual at all times, right? So I think that's where it's a negative effect. I just don't know how to fix it. And I don't know, and to be honest with you, I don't know if I want to, so much as I want people to look deeper and understand that below the survival is a good person.
There's an intention.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I'm trying to build something.
Yeah.
Like it's not about, for lack of a better term, it's not about you. There's a section of me you can find that will be about you, but that side isn't for you. It's for the future of us.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay. So I tie up every or I wrap up every conversation with asking the men to tell me what love looks like when they're thinking about loving themselves, when they're
Mm.
thinking about their career, and when they're thinking about their relationships. What does love look like for you right now when you think about your career? Let's start with that.
Career, love to me looks like an environment where I can mm, where I can let my time maximize itself, where I can let my mind be free, where I can let my, because I have a lot of random ideas, where I
Yeah.
can let my ideas, where I can give them a chance to be born, like where I can give birth to a lot of things. That's what love would look like to me, where I can dive into those ideas and almost work for myself,
Yeah.
developing my own industries, developing my own products, developing my own whatever, right? Wherever my soul takes me, type of thing. That's what love would look like as a career.
And what does it look like in your relationships?
In my relationships, I think it's more on me than the other person. I think love for a relationship is me learning to accept people as they are,
Okay.
learning to like not put the best parts of them that I see on a pedestal and try to change the parts I don't. It's just like learning how the two sides interact, and then giving the right energy to that. And then also, to be honest with you, I'm abrasive at times. And it's just dealing with that abrasion and understanding that other people aren't going to be able to handle the things that I think are soft, right? Like the comments that I think are just like normal, being able to kind of clean it up and polish it so I'm not injuring someone while being honest.
Hmm. And what does love look like when it comes to loving yourself?
Loving myself is entirely about feeding my soul, like feeding my mind, body, and my soul. So my mind, it's about giving. I have a very darty mind. It's to like jump around and go different directions.
Yeah.
It's about giving it the nutrients at every one of those darts.
Yeah.
It requires time, but we have an infinite, like the internet exists. We have an infinite wealth of information. So I could feed my mind no problem. I just need time. My body, it's about taking care of the things that I ignored as a kid, sacrificing just to like work or whatever the case is, all the injuries that I acquired, fixing those and being healthy, understanding pain isn't normal. Pain isn't normalcy. I've been dealing with pain as normalcy for a long time, thinking it's just as a man, you gotta sacrifice, but
Hmm.
it's not normal, right? And then for my my soul, it's about doing what I think my purpose is and fulfilling what I think my direction or at least the pathway I should follow that's laid before me by God.
Yeah.
Um, Following that and feeding my soul so that I can have the will to continue to do that, and I can walk away kind of with a happiness and fullness that you don't get from just your own pursuits. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. Do you have social media handles that you'd like to share with people, or do you want to just stay under the radar?
No, people can follow me, just don't be weird about it. Um, so my Instagram is at King Charming, no I because there's no I in my kingdom.
Okay.
KNG. Yeah, no, that's why I made it. There's no I in my kingdom. It's a team thing, right? That's my goal, is to learn how to be a team player, and I also want to do a lot to uplift other people and share some of the stuff I've saved up in my mind,
Hmm.
to build people to be kings, because we're all kings and queens. We just have to find what realm we have to reign. And
Okay.
then yeah, KNG Charming. Um, don't judge me on the charming. And then and then it's a situation where I don't really have LinkedIn, but you guys don't need to follow me on that. I mean, just start there, and then if you're cool people, we can connect in other ways, right?
Okay. Thank you. This was so good, Jay. You were
I
so
appreciate
good.
you. I appreciate you. I got to start a podcast, and I got to get you on one as
No,
well.
I was just thinking, I was like, yo, this guy has to be on. So Melissa and I are starting a podcast.
Mm.
And I was just like, yo, this guy has to be on the podcast with us. Like you dropped like so many gems, but you were like quick about it.
Really?
Like,
I
yeah,
thought I
like,
talked too much.
no, like I feel like you gave enough of yourself. Um, where you didn't you like if someone's listening they'll see vulnerability in it, but you didn't like dive so deep where anybody would think like, oh, this guy has issues or he's weak or anything like that. And you shared your truth, like your opinion, and I really like that.